By the time we pulled up on the side of white boy Rick at the light, slid back that door, sprayed him, but the Mac got stuck. Blue was like, man, don't let this motherfucker get away. He took off.
White boy Rick. I mean, white boy was legendary.
If not one of the biggest drug dealers in Detroit's history, Richard White Boy Rick Wershey is certainly one of the most well-known.
If Rick Wershey would have been anything other than white, nobody had ever heard of him. The fact of the matter was, it was so novel to the media, to the public, that here was this white kid that was in Detroit and was supposed to be this big, huge kingpin. Well, I mean, he was 17 years old. There's no damn way white boy Rick, or Rick Wershey, was the biggest drug guy in Detroit at the age of 7. It's ridiculous.
From January 87 to late 87, that whole kind of year, he was it in Detroit in terms of media gangster, and the newspapers followed him. He was eventually charged with possession of 8 kilos of cocaine.
One day we following him, he went to Kathy's house. We sitting there watching, waiting for him to come back out. Then all of a sudden the car pulled up, 2 guys stepped out. I was like, we checked around, and from what we get, it was the Curry brother that sent somebody to do that. Because he in there screwing one of the Curry brothers' wife.
At the same time, he was walking around with Johnny Curry's wife. Not only the fact that she was attractive, but the fact that she was the mayor's niece.
There was a federal indictment. I represented Johnny before the federal indictment. Again, pistol case, and they had the usual. It was the usual federal case. They had wiretaps, good wiretaps that killed us.
You know, just having her on his arm gave him a lot of weight. It came out in court documents that Mayor Young had actually told Hart to assign an entire security detail to follow Wershey and Volson around on a daily basis, but to in no way make any arrests or stop any criminal activity, but to simply be there in case gunfire was to break out, to go corral and take her away from harm.
Then we followed him from over on, I think it was Hayes Street. He had a spot over there. By the time we pulled up on the side of white boy Rick at the light at Dickinson and Outer Drive, slid back that door, sprayed him, but the Mac got stuck. Blue was like, man, don't let this motherfucker get away. He took off.
Wershey became linked to the best friends in the media when members showed up at his trial.
Well, we went down there to make sure that he didn't get off. We down there and pretending we his crew.
When he went to trial, this whole entourage of assholes show up, with their pants on backwards. And
their plan was for Wershey to get convicted so the best friends could assassinate him in state prison.
We just wanted to make sure that boy didn't get out from underneath what he got.
Trial lasts a couple weeks. Jury's out for, I believe, 4 or 5 days. Comes back guilty. Rick gets life in prison without possibility of parole.
White boy Rick he became a friend of mine. But at first he was just a rumor. I heard a whole lot of talk about white boy Rick this, white boy Rick that.
I was introduced to an individual by the name of Richard Wershey Sr. His son was white boy Rick. When I was introduced to Richard Wershey Sr., he was providing a lot of street information. He began reporting more and more on drug activity. And so he was going to be handed over to me to manage him as an informant. I didn't even know his name. He was a white drug informant. So as I'm meeting with this potential informant on the west side of Detroit at a McDonald's, I'm under the impression I'm just going to meet this guy. And as I walk in, I see this white guy. He's sitting there, and he's got this young kid with him. Looks to me like he's 14, 15 years old. It's not totally unusual. Sometimes informants bring their children to meetings. It's just, I know it sounds crazy, but they do.
He would be at the mall with 15, 20 African Americans surrounding him, and he got his gold chains.
Introductions are made, and I began talking to the father. And I began talking to him about the Curry drug gang, which I had an interest in an open case on. And I would ask him just basic intelligence about, what kind of cars are they driving, where do they meet, who's their associates are, what's their daily activity. And I noticed that almost all the time I would ask the father this, he would defer to the kid. And the kid would answer.
Money, money, money.
The profits were staggering, up to $1 million a week. Authorities say the Chambers brothers who made this home video didn't even bother to count the $1 bills because it took too long.
And when I came over, he had a couple of little baby white pit bulls. He had maybe about 25, 30 pistols in the house, you know, that he was showing me, actually. And matter of fact, he gave me one. I can't remember exactly which one he gave me, but he gave me one token of his friendship.
But I began picking up intel that he was running his own operation. He had gone into the drug trade and was doing his own thing.
Rick was a weight man. Rick dealt in keys. You know, if he dealt in crack houses, I had no knowledge of it whatsoever. I dealt it in crack. Basically, I bought keys, but I converted it over to crack cocaine. Rick, he was the man that you would hear would get 20, 30, 40, 50, or 100 kilos of cocaine.
Ultimately, White Boy Rick, he had a catchy street name. It was an unusual situation. The media loved it. And every time there was a raid or anything on the news that they could associate with White Boy Rick, you saw it on the news quite a bit. So he became kind of, I guess, sort of folklore.
He invited me over to his house.
He sent word through who?
Yeah, he sent word through my friend Fats. He always sent word. Hey man, I would like to meet BJ. I would like to meet BJ, but I didn't have time. So this particular time, I made time for him since he had sent me so many requests to come and holler at him. And when I came over, he had a couple of little baby white pit bulls. He had maybe about 25, 30 pistols in the house, you know, that he was showing me, actually. And matter of fact, he gave me one. I can't remember exactly which one he gave me, but he gave me one token of his friendship. Rick was a weight man. Rick dealt in keys. You know, if he dealt in crack houses, I had no knowledge of it whatsoever. I dealt it in crack. Basically, I bought keys, but I converted it over to crack cocaine. Rick, he was the man that you would hear would get 20, 30, 40, 50, or 100 kilos of cocaine. Some of my interaction with Rick consists of he selling me a gold nugget belt, which was worth about $30,000. He sold it to me for $5,000, just basically because Rick was the kind of person, if he wanted to be friends with you, he really wanted to be friends with you. And that's how I felt, that Rick wanted to be a friend of mine. Because I know that, you know, he didn't have to even sell the belt. Because at the time when I was in his house, right, he probably had maybe over $100,000 of cash there.